Offer a rat a hit of cocaine or a sip of sugar water, and almost every time, about 94%, it chooses the sugar. That isn't a story about willpower. It's a story about a brain built over millions of years for a world where sweetness was rare, precious, and almost never a trap. That world is gone. The craving stayed. And it's working on you right now. The average person eats around 17 teaspoons of added sugar a day, close to 60 pounds a year. Your ancestors might have found that much in an entire good season if they were lucky. Same brain, wildly different world. Here's why it can't tell the difference. You didn't learn to love sugar. You were born loving it. Newborns only minutes old relax and half smile at something sweet and recoil from anything bitter. That reflex is ancient wisdom. Sweet meant ripe, safe, full of energy. Bitter often meant poison. Your tongue was a survival detector. It still is. It's just been hacked. Picture the world it was tuned for. No shelves, no snacks. Fruit ripened for a few weeks a year. Honey meant climbing to a wild hive and taking the stings. Sweetness was the single richest signal of calories your ancestors ever met. So evolution wired it straight to reward. Find it, eat all of it, now. That instinct kept them alive. Here's the wiring. Sweetness on the tongue fires a jolt of dopamine deep in the brain's reward core, the nucleus accumbens, the very circuit lit by gambling and drugs. And dopamine isn't pleasure, it's pursuit. It doesn't say, that was nice, it says, get more. For a starving forager, that command was a gift. At a vending machine, it's a trap. Then we made the signal impossible to resist. A wild apple is faintly sweet, ancient fruit barely. 1 can of soda carries about 10 teaspoons of sugar, more than your ancestors could gather in days. We took the rarest signal in nature and concentrated it past anything that has ever existed. The brain has no defense against a key cut for a lock evolution never imagined. Now, the strange part. Eat a steak and your body soon says enough. Eat sugar and that brake barely taps. Because the fullness system you rely on was built for sugar the way nature shipped it, wrapped in fiber and water inside whole fruit. Strip it bare and the signals that should stop you never fully fire. Watch what happens to your hunger hormones. After a real meal, the hunger hormone ghrelin drops and you feel satisfied. Fructose, the sugar in fruit and most sweeteners, barely moves it and does little to raise the fullness signals that glucose triggers. And when you drink your sugar, the calories slip in almost unregistered. You can pour 300 liquid calories into your body and feel hungry minutes later. But here's where it turns from passive to active. Sugar doesn't just slip past your defenses, it reaches in and flips an ancient switch on purpose. Scientists asking why animals fatten before winter found a single trigger that turns ordinary food into stored fat. That trigger is fructose, and in your body it is almost never switched off. Inside your cells, fructose does what other foods don't. It briefly drains your energy currency, ATP, and signals scarcity, as if famine were on the way. The body's answer is ancient and ruthless. Stop burning fat, start hoarding it, get hungry, drink more, keep foraging. Fructose doesn't just add calories, it commands your body to prepare for starvation by getting fat. It runs on uric acid, the same signal that rises in a starving animal, telling it to rebuild its fat. Around 12 million years ago, our ancestors gained a mutation that made this fat-storing response stronger, likely a lifesaver when fruit vanished and famine loomed. The switch that once saved them from winter is the switch sugar jams on in you every single day. And most of that fructose goes to one organ, your liver. Unlike glucose, it needs no insulin and floods in fast. And the overwhelmed liver turns the excess into fat right where it stands. Drip feed it sweetness all day long, and fat begins to build inside the liver itself. This is the engine behind a disease almost no one had a century ago. It's called fatty liver, and it is now astonishingly common, found in roughly a third of all adults on Earth, often in people who look perfectly healthy and rarely drink. A liver quietly marbling with fat, with almost no symptoms until late. The mismatch isn't a theory. You can measure it in 1 in 3 livers alive today. Fat in the wrong places, the liver, the muscle, makes your cells deaf to insulin, the hormone that clears sugar from your blood. So your body shouts louder, pumping out more insulin to be heard. For a while it works, and your blood sugar still looks normal. But the system is straining, and that strain is the first quiet step toward type 2 diabetes. Push it long enough, and the cells that make insulin begin to fail. Across large populations, each extra sugary drink a day is tied to a meaningfully higher risk of type 2 diabetes, a disease that barely existed in the foraging world. The same DNA your ancestors carried, running inside a bloodstream they would never recognize. And the more you feed it, the louder it gets. Flood the reward circuit often enough, and it dials itself down. The same hit gives less pleasure, so you reach for more just to feel the same. The pleasure fades, the wanting doesn't. That widening gap between liking and craving is exactly where a habit hardens into a trap. But this is not a war on fruit. Eat an orange and the sugar arrives wrapped in fiber and water, released slowly, with a built-in stop signal, the way nature always delivered it. The apple was never the problem. The problem is what we did to sugar, stripped it bare, concentrated it, poured it into everything, and removed every break. And we hid it everywhere. Sugar is in the bread, the sauce, the healthy yogurt, the drink you'd never call dessert. The dose crept up while the warning signs stayed silent. You aren't failing some test of character. You're standing in a flood of a signal your body was built to chase down, never to escape. Here is the hopeful part. The same liver that fills with fat can empty it, often within weeks, once the sugar stops flooding in. The switch that's jammed on can be released. Your biology isn't broken. It's responding exactly as designed to a world it never expected. Change what you feed it, and the body changes back. This is the mismatch Darwin's idea predicts. A brain shaped by scarcity, handed unlimited sweetness. Instincts that once meant survival, crave it, store it, never let it pass, turned against a body that will never meet the famine they were built for. Your genes didn't change. The harvest just stopped ending. So the move isn't raw willpower against a craving evolution spent millions of years perfecting. It's changing the field. Drink water, not sugar. Liquid sugar is the purest form of the trap. Eat sweetness the way nature shipped it, whole with its fiber. And read the labels, because the flood hides in plain sight. You're not weak, you're outnumbered, so stop fighting fair. Your body is still keeping a promise it made millions of years ago, that sweetness is rare and you must never let it pass. It has no idea the famine isn't coming. So the real question isn't whether you can resist the next craving. It's what you'll do now that you know who you're truly arguing with.